All right. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi. How's everyone's day been?
It's been good. How's your day?
Pretty good. Pretty good. All right. So it looks like there's a lot of people here, which is great. We love to see the enthusiasm. Okay. So basically, today's event is going to be a conversation with some very talented creatives about how they got their respective internships and their experiences at their work. So towards the end, we will definitely take some questions from the audience. So please make sure to drop any and all questions that you might have in the chat. And also after the live stream, we invite everyone to join our panelists for a live voice chat in our Adobe Discord. So links for that will be dropped later on during the event. So, all right, I guess we can start with some introductions, and I'll go first. My name is Devika Elakara. I am a sophomore computer science student at the University of Maryland, and I am an Adobe student ambassador on campus. So basically, I promote the fact that we get free Creative Cloud for all the students, which is really nice. I have interned at NASA for the past 3 summers in their scientific visualization studio. Basically there we take Earth and space data and we turn them into animations. So it's the perfect blend of, art, science, and technology that I was looking for in my internship. So I guess we can just go around and each one of us can introduce ourselves. Who would like to go next? Fernanda, why don't you go next?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Super excited to be here. I'm currently a senior at Northeastern. I'm studying marketing with a minor in psychology and neuroscience, and I'm currently a project management intern at Tesla. I've been working there for almost a year. My responsibilities lie a lot, obviously, on different projects that I have to oversee from beginning to end, especially related to the service campaigns team. And my previous experience has been in private equity, B2B software, community platforms, and entrepreneurship. Really excited to be here today, talk to you more about my background and especially how you can use your own skills and strengths to find the perfect internship for you.
I can go next. Hi, everybody. My name is Mykal-Michele Longino. I'm a senior English major at Spelman College. I concentrate in media and writing. I'm from Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and for the past couple of summers, I've been interning with Apple, first on the Shazam product ecosystem team, and then last summer on the growth marketing team, focusing on Apple Arcade and the App Store. In both roles, they've been pretty marketing focused, but I've gotten to use my communication skills to write some copy, to do some fun UX projects. So I'm excited to share with you guys what I've learned.
Hey everyone, I'm Charlotte Logeais. I am currently a footwear designer 1 at Nike. I got converted from my summer internship to full-time 2 weeks ago, so pretty exciting to be in a full-time position now. This summer I interned with Nike for 3 months and I was on the women's performance team, and now I've joined the kids performance team full-time. And I'm also at the same time doing a master's program through University of Southern California in integrated design, business, and tech.
Awesome. I think that's the dream, just like getting straight job from your internship. So that's really exciting. So excited for you.
Thank you. Thank
you. All right. So I guess we can start by talking a little bit about how we got our internships. And then from there, we can just stem and see where the conversation goes. So would anyone like to go first? If not, I can start. All right, I guess I'll start. So I was always a very creative kid growing up. I really wanted to be an artist. I was always telling my mom, I want to go into animation. I want to go into movies. But I live in Maryland, so obviously I'm not near all the animation studios. So a long time I was wondering, how am I going to get experience? And my mother was the one who actually pushed me to apply for NASA. And at the time I was actually scared of space. I was it was a fear that was in the back of my head. I was like, I don't want to learn about asteroids. I don't want to find out if aliens exist. That's something I don't need to know. But then I applied. I was like, you know what, whatever, I'll apply. And during the application, how the NASA application works is you apply and then later on you see the different projects. And after I applied and I was able to see the different projects, I found an opportunity to work in their animation studio. And I was shocked because I didn't realize that a government agency would have a creative opportunity like this. So I applied and I didn't hear back for a long time. And I thought like, oh, I didn't get the gig. It's fine. It's whatever. But someone, I believe it was one of my teachers in high school, she told me you should send them a follow-up email, just, thanking for the opportunity anyways. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. I sent them the follow-up email. And then a week later, I get the opportunity. So then later on after my internship, I found out that the email was actually what got me on their radar. So that is my first tip of advice. Please don't be afraid to reach out, aside from just the initial application, because sometimes it's that extra push that really like gets you on an employer's radar and gets you to the internship or job. So for me, that is the one piece of advice I always tell people. Just don't be afraid to just send an email or just like ask someone to send a cold email. You never know what'll happen, So then after my first internship, it was really exciting. I was able to work with like space data and turning it into animations. And I was actually able to use some Adobe products, which is really cool. I used Premiere Pro to make my movies, and it was just really exciting experience. And then I was lucky enough to get a return offer for the next 2 years. So that was my experience with that.
That is so cool. And I love how proactive you were. And I think that is like such a meaningful tip for anyone that is looking for an internship. Make sure that even if you don't hear back, you reach out, you look for the opportunity. I had a similar experience. So I hadn't been in the car industry whatsoever before Tesla, but I had some experience in the oil industry. And I knew some of the things that I had learned there, especially when it comes to the energy landscape and how it's obviously changing and transforming the world. And so, because my background is mostly in marketing, I'm very creative. I love design. I had a certificate in strategic design and management before this. So I wanted to make sure that my application stood out a little bit. And so I redesigned my whole resume from the traditional view to actually a lot of colors. I put my picture in the corner, big purple font, and then just kind of reorganized everything in a way that felt very creative for me. And the only positions that were open at Tesla at the time were related to engineering, supply chain management, and operations, but I still applied to those positions. Didn't hear back, similar to you, Devika. And then a year later, a recruiter reached out saying that a position opened up related to design. So even though there was no position with design, it was really the recruiter that saved my resume, and they reached out with an opportunity that matched the creativity behind my resume. And so for my resume, I used Adobe products as well, but that is also one piece of advice. A lot of the times you might bring something to the table that is not part of the qualifications, but it is really your uniqueness that can get you a great opportunity, and especially if you stay true and are bold in taking some of those risks. So that is my one piece of advice for that. And you never know, even if you apply, even if it's not the right position, someone might get back to you with the right opportunity. So apply.
I love all of these stories. I think I have a little bit of a similar story as well. My freshman year, I had my first internship after coming back from a study abroad program. And at my school, it was pretty much the vibe is you need to be doing something every summer. So I was scrambling. I was like, what can I do? I was late to the application process. I looked around for volunteer opportunities, and I got in touch with this nonprofit called Bandar and Baloo. And at this time, I had no real work experience, but I knew I wanted to get into the digital marketing space. Mind you, my major is English, so the past few years I've just been trying to figure out how can I shift my focus to be more so communications and marketing. So in this role, I got to do really everything because I was the only intern. The only thing was it was unpaid. But I'm so thankful for the opportunity because it was, I think, what pushed me over the edge in my interview processes for Apple. Similarly, I had no thoughts about getting into tech. I didn't think that someone, with a humanities major they had roles for me, but someone just said, you know what, just try it. And I did. And I got a couple basically callbacks, one for a PR team and then another for Apple Music. At the time, I didn't know it was Shazam specifically, but I did the interview process and I learned really quickly how important communication skills are in the tech industry. And so after my first interview process, it moved pretty quickly. I sent the follow-up email. I said thank you. And I think that showing my personality helped a lot in the interview process. My first summer, I focused a lot on the user experience. I got to design some really cool features within the Shazam app. And then I knew that I wanted to return to Apple halfway through my summer because one, I got the opportunity, but I also knew I wanted just to explore what's an option for me. So I networked a lot during the summer, and just something as simple as having a coffee chat, and it was remote, so I would have some fun WebEx meetings. And by the end of the summer, I realized I wanted to be on a growth marketing team. So I did my networking again, figured out what team was available. There were some spots in Apple Arcade. So that's kind of how I ended up switching roles. My biggest piece of advice in my story coming to Apple is definitely take the opportunities that might seem benign. I didn't think taking a unpaid internship would result in anything, but in my interview process, every one of my bosses mentioned that they loved how hard I worked in that digital marketing role. So definitely look for stepping stones to get to your destination.
Awesome story. So the way that I got to my internship, I think there's a lot of similarities as well. Basically in March of 2020, like right before COVID hit, maybe 2 weeks before, Nike had done an event on my university's campus. So I went to Pratt Institute in Brooklyn and majored in industrial design. And so Nike did basically an info session where they talked about the opportunities, mainly design internships because I was at a design school. And I went up to the recruiter afterward and like shook his hand, introduced myself, and was able to like get an email. And so I followed up after that event and emailed him, and we stayed in contact. And I interviewed in 2020 for the internship, which ended up being canceled that year because of COVID. And so a year later, in April of 2021, I reached out to him again. He remembered me. And they were in the midst of interviewing for the internship. And he was like, can we put your resume in? And I had just updated it all through using like Illustrator and InDesign, my portfolio and resume. And that was how I was able to get the internship with them this summer. And I was on the women's performance team. And in a remote environment, it can feel tough to try and network. But I'd say that's my biggest piece of advice is networking. Don't hesitate to shoot an email out, set up a one-on-one, and come prepared with questions. So, because you are taking someone's time, so make sure not to waste it. Like, come with those questions. Like, what do you want to learn about them? What do you want to share about yourself? And I'd say that's part of why I got converted to a full-time role, was networking and making sure to create those connections.
Yeah, agreed. I think it definitely does a lot of benefit to like do your research before you go and like talk to these people, because a lot of times they like to see that you know things about either the company or the brand or whatever it is you're applying for, or at least even if you don't know a lot about the logistics and specifics, to show that you have like interest and passion specific field that you're applying for. So yeah, and let's see, we got some really good questions from the audience. So I guess Rishita, I believe, asks, when do internship opportunities for the summer usually start popping up? So I guess like when did we start applying for these opportunities, or like how early, how late, what is too early, what is too late? I think at least in my experience, a lot of these internships are really spread out all year. There have been many times where I go to apply for an internship and I find out it's already closed, even though it's for the next summer. So that always kind of sucks to see that, oh, an opportunity that I was really interested in closes. But yeah, definitely start your internship hunt early. But for me, I think in my personal experience, usually November, December is when I applied for my internships. I don't know if anyone else had a different experience, but
For me, interning at Adidas and Nike, both of their like website portals to apply, it was in October, so super early, like mid-October, and then the interview process basically goes all the way until like April for an internship that would usually start in June.
For me, I started my first application in September, and then the interview process was about 3 weeks long. And by November, I knew, and by December, I had signed the contract. That was pretty fast, but I think that it spans the entire year, depending on also what semester you're interning. So, like, but when I knew that I wanted to return, I had put in my resume for the new team that August. But there were interns who were on my team who told me that they had applied in March, and they had a really fast track. So it really just depends on the team and also the company.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing that I did want to note is that Tesla also offers co-ops. And so at Northeastern, we have the co-op program, which means that you're working full time and you're not studying for that semester. And so a lot of students, when they either are taking a semester off or taking a co-op, they can apply to those opportunities. So there are full-time summer internships at Tesla. So I'd suggest applying even like the summer beforehand if it's open, or the fall off, and it will indicate in the website for what summer term it is. But as well, if you're looking for a co-op or one of those opportunities, look obviously the semester before that, and there's a ton of opportunities for you to work 30 or 40 hours every week.
I think one thing too, you can use LinkedIn as a pretty like powerful resource, setting like job alerts, choosing like locations, companies, and roles that you're interested in, and then it can just like send you a weekly or daily email based on what preference you choose with like any new upcoming jobs.
And along with that, other social media accounts like Instagram and Twitter, different tech companies, and really a lot of companies just have their career sites as social media handles. So that's where when I was doing my application process, I found out about a lot of application dates.
yeah, same here. For NASA, they had like a NASA internships Instagram. And actually the people like behind it were very responsive. I was able to get a response when I DM'd them. So sometimes just like reaching out like that, you never know who's going to respond. Okay, so all three of you mentioned that you had interviews for your positions. So we have a question that asks, what sort of questions did you guys get in your interviews? So I can't really respond to this because I guess the government like application process is a little different because I didn't have an interview. But if you guys want to respond to this one.
Sure. I'd say it's a mix of it depends on the company. Some have like a generic set of questions, like why do you want to work for this company? What would make you a good fit? What are your strengths and weaknesses? But I think a lot of it too is in design, at least, is wanting to learn about you and like how your brain works. And a big part of it is you're like showing a portfolio as well. So like walking through your projects, walking through your experience, and kind of tailoring how your experience would fit to this role or fit to that company.
For Apple, the questions were mostly behavioral questions. It was mostly a test to see how we would fit in the work environment because Apple is such a collaborative environment. Each team is very different. For the Shazam team, a lot of the questions were based on my college experience. I got asked about a lot of the organizations that I'm in, a lot of the work that I produced for our social media accounts, and just digital marketing questions. And then for Apple Arcade and growth marketing, the team was relatively new at the time. So I wasn't sure what the job would entail. And they knew that. So most of the questions were more so about how do you learn on your feet? How do you collaborate with others? If you don't know something, who do you go to? Just questions about how I would work in an environment that was pretty new to me.
Yeah, For me, it was also a mix of behavioral and case-based. And so my overall interview process, you have a recruiter screening, then you meet with someone from the team. I met with my right now manager, and I also met with the director of our team. And obviously, because the team itself is legal and compliance, there's not a lot of skills or prior knowledge that I have regarding this, especially for such like a niche product or company. And so one piece of advice, because it will depend based on the role that you're applying to, go through the job description and make sure that you can highlight one or two bullet points in which you can show examples from previous experiences. So when you excelled either at a school project or at a previous internship, because a lot of the questions will be, tell me about your background. Can you tell me why you're interested in this company or this role? Make sure you obviously do your research, but also are prepared to show, even though maybe you don't have tons of experience, but you can bring a lot of those transferable and soft skills into the role. And so I'd say it will depend based on the role that you're applying to. A lot of the times they'll give you maybe case studies in terms of, let's say this happens, how would you react? And following, methods like the STAR method, where you talk about the situation, the task at hand, the action you took, and the result of that. And obviously, if it's something more related to coding or designing, having a portfolio or making sure you have a way to show how you think is something that will really benefit you.
Yeah. Another thing to like add on to that is a lot of times when you're applying to these roles, they will say like, we want the qualified candidate to have this, and that can be very scary, I guess, when you're applying. Like it looks very intimidating, but the thing is, a lot of these times companies don't expect you to know everything going in. They will teach you the skills because we're students. A lot of times when we're applying, we're not expected to know everything. When I first applied for my internship, I was a rising senior, so in high school. So I really did not have any experience, and I didn't think I would get the position because I didn't have all this huge skill set under my belt. But all my mentors were really nice and they were willing to teach me, and I was willing to learn. That is the biggest thing. I think if you're willing to learn as an intern, they will love that. So please don't be scared to apply for a position just because you think you're underqualified.
I want to echo that point because I also saw a question in the chat about overcoming imposter syndrome. And I think that's something that I definitely dealt with when applying for the first internship to Apple, because you just don't know what you don't know. And I didn't realize as a humanities major, the space I could take up in a tech place. Sorry, doorbell. But just apply. You never know what could happen. And like you said, soaking up all the information. Network with other teams as well, because they know that this is our first real professional experience. So it's all about learning as much as you can.
Agreed. Okay, so kind of, I guess, bouncing off the imposter syndrome, what were some of your guys' biggest challenges that you encountered during your internships? Because I know there are so many different challenges that you can come across, whether it be like a technical thing or a social professional thing. So what were some of your guys' experiences during the internship?
I can speak to this one. I think imposter syndrome was definitely one of the biggest challenges. I think coming into a big brand like Nike, Apple, Tesla, and NASA, you kind of wonder, like, am I really good enough to be here? You really do have to remind yourself, like, you made it through a pretty rigorous process, like interview process to get there. And they really do care about an intern's perspective. And everyone that I like did have a chance to connect with one-on-one really like was happy to give me that time. And they like we're kind of the next generation. And so they do care what we think, and they want to hear our ideas. And I'd say the other tough point was being in a remote environment, and like feeling in the beginning, like, how do you feel like you're part of a team when you are working remotely, and not like you're working in a silo?
Yeah, for me, definitely echo the remote part because I've been remote for Tesla since I started. I was able to visit the factory and my team over the summer, and that was for a brief amount of time. So obviously, it was an adjustment, but making sure that you are voicing your concerns or how you're feeling to your team and your manager, and you kind of all are on the same page and doing initiatives to, feel like you're part of a community is important. And one of my other biggest challenges is that there is so much to do at these companies all the time. Like, so many things will start arising. Like, you have your specific role, but one thing will pop up in one department, you can jump in another. Prioritization is so big. And so one of the biggest things for me has been kind of writing down a list of all the things and projects that I want to do, and then going into one-on-ones with my manager prepared and saying, here's all the things that are on my plate. What is the most important thing that I should be focusing on? Because a lot of the time, they will be able to guide you on which items are more important than others, and you don't have to guess. But I do think that is a constant challenge I face every day, making sure that things are reorganized and repurposed in the way that is going to help our team grow, hit our objectives. And so time management has been a skill that I really consider important and something that you have to work on every day.
For me, I have two things. One would be just getting down the jargon of our company. So I feel like each company has different abbreviations and just different words, and a lot of things need to be kept secret. So it was just making a lot of lists and flashcards of just memorizing what I needed to know for each role. And two, I think being proactive. I wouldn't necessarily say it was the hardest thing, but you'll notice sometimes when you go to different teams, each intern has a specific role, but your team also has other projects that they're doing that keeps everybody else busy. So I had a few talks before my internship started with my managers just to figure out how I could be the most valuable each summer, because I wanted to make sure not only did I add value to the team that I was on, but also that I had something to take away with me based wherever I go next, whether it was returning to Apple or somewhere else. So I focused a lot on being proactive. If I felt any day that I just didn't have a lot to do, it just meant reaching out to people who maybe weren't my managers, but maybe some mentors, and just saying, hey, I have, a few hours free. Can I meet with you? Do you need any help with anything? I'm interested in this project. Can I sit in on a meeting? At first, in a remote environment, it can be a little daunting to, set up those one-on-ones or put yourself out there. But by the end of my first summer, it was pretty normal for me to just sit in on meetings and just lend in a helping hand where I could. So that way, by the end, I could say, oh, I did, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 projects versus the one that was the goal of the internship.
I think for me, the two biggest ones were, one, what you said, Michael, like how knowing the different jargon of the company. NASA also uses a lot of acronyms, so I was constantly confused during these meetings sometimes that I was sitting in on. I was like, what are they saying? But I quickly learned that, I can just ask. Like, I don't know why I was scared to ask people like what something meant, because I didn't want to seem as if I was, like, quote unquote dumb. Which is like the worst thing an intern can possibly think, because no one is dumb, And then I guess for me, the second thing that was a challenge for me was being a minority. At least in my department, I was the youngest person. I was one of maybe 3 girls, and I was the only person of color. So during our team meetings, I was always a little worried to like speak out because I was kind of like the odd one out. But then after like a week or so, I realized that I'm scared for nothing. All the mentors there were really kind, really sweet, always ready to answer my questions, anything I had. And anytime I was interested in, a different department or something, they took me to meet other people, to show me other different projects that were around the campus. So it was really just putting myself out there and not being afraid to put myself out there. So yeah, I guess those are 2 challenges that I had to overcome. All right, so I guess, Fernanda, I heard that you have a really cool LinkedIn and that it helped you get your internship. So maybe if you want to speak on that, and hopefully if we can see it, that'd be pretty cool.
Yes, absolutely. So as you've heard in this panel, a lot of what you can achieve can be done through LinkedIn, especially when it comes to networking. And one of the earliest things that I learned is honing on your personal brand. And so I really focus a lot on writing content. And a lot of the content that I write is based on my own personal experiences applying to jobs, maybe even talking about upcoming events. So as you can see right now on the screen, there are some highlighted posts that I've written, such as how my hot pink and purple resume landed me an interview with a private equity firm. In that specific stance, I remember I applied with that resume and I got the call with the recruiter because they were just so interested in understanding why I applied with that resume. They weren't even really looking to learn a lot about my experience, but other like, what is this? And so after I got my foot on the door, I kind of explained my background, and they were really receptive, and I moved on to the next few rounds. So it was a really fulfilling experience. I think your LinkedIn is a good way to tell your story, and it can be fun. A lot of the time I do believe people think it has to be super serious, but at the end of the day, I'm a very creative person. I love doing different things, and so I add all of my experience here on my LinkedIn, different bullet points. I love interacting with other people, and it is just such a great way to kind of carry your own digital business card wherever you go. And so in my About Me section, I talk a lot about the things that I'm passionate about. So just things like what I do for fun, such as dancing, and how that relates to, learning a lot of steps and being organized in the workplace, my purpose behind everything I do, what I'm studying. And so this is just an example of the things that you can bring into your own LinkedIn profile. Another area that I did want to talk about was in your job section when you're talking about companies and the different type of organizations that you've been part of, making sure that you can write a few bullet points on how you contributed, and if it's still ongoing, writing a description on the company. So over here, I've included a lot of my internship positions, co-op roles, opportunities at the university. And so I just think it's such a great way to interact with others as well. I do like to interact with people that I don't even know. So sometimes if I see a post that I think is really good on LinkedIn, I'll comment something, I'll ask a question, and it's one of my favorite things. Some of my friends mock me because I'm more on LinkedIn than on Instagram or other types of social media, but I learned a lot through here. So this is my LinkedIn. Devika, I wanted to also hear about your own experience because I know you also have done so much. So I was also interested in your own interests.
Yeah, sure. So, I guess I always kind of struggled with like figuring out what I wanted to do. I was always interested in art and science, and I really didn't think there was like an intersection to them. Yeah, there you go. So when I like found these opportunities that was able to combine art and science,
Mhm.
that is where my interest like spiked. I was like, okay, there is something that I can do in this world. So I made sure to put those interests in my about. So as you can see, I've talked about how I love animation and storytelling through film and just like the applications of design and STEM and education through visual learning. And so, even like with Adobe tools such as Photoshop and Premiere Pro, like those helped me get and build my portfolio. So I have my portfolio linked there that has both my internship work, my personal work, and my school work, just so like employers can get a little bit taste of everything of what I've been working on. And then, in the activity section for a long time, I tried, or not, sorry, not activity, the experience section. I wondered if I should solely put, just paid opportunities, or if I should do paid and unpaid opportunities, or if I should include things such as, waitressing job that I did. But in the end of the day, I realized that any experience is good experience.
Mhm.
So I've included, my hostess job because that shows that I have experience in that sector too, working with people, and it just kind of makes you more of like a well-rounded person. And I've included my volunteer experience as well, just kind of showing the breadth of work that I've done, whether it be personal work, school work, internship, etc. So yeah, I guess I actually joined LinkedIn pretty late. I joined about a year ago, and I was very surprised at how fast I was able to grow my LinkedIn.
Mhm.
And it was kind of similar to what you said. Like my friends were making fun of me. They're like, "Oh, you're always on LinkedIn." It's like
Yeah.
that's like your thing now,
Yeah.
But I just liked connecting with people, and connecting with people I didn't even think that would really connect back with me. Like for example, some directors at Pixar that I was really interested in their work. I was like, let me send them a connection. Who knows? And then they ended up connecting back, and I just thought it was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, you never know who will reach out to you. And I think it's just a great tool to get yourself out there.
I totally agree. And I do think you can even make your profile visually stand out in so many ways. Like a lot of people do take it, again, like the serious route, which is totally okay. But if you're a creative person, like, utilizing tools like InDesign or Illustrator to create your cover, or Lightroom to edit the lighting in your picture and make sure that, it looks more professional or fun or whatnot. So I do think there's so many ways in which you can also bring that visual aspect and make your profile stand out.
Exactly, for sure. All right, I guess we have some more audience questions. Okay, someone asks, how do you guys deal with forms of rejection? It's hard to apply for positions when you keep getting rejected and it lowers your self-esteem. That is true. It is very hard to keep applying when you get rejections. I can attest to that. I guess it's just, I don't know like what exactly I would say is advice, but just keep applying. Don't sell yourself short. Don't get unmotivated. Just remember that a lot of people, it's not a race, you know? Everyone has their own time for these things. And if you don't get you don't get an acceptance on the first offer, that is okay. You don't need an acceptance on the first offer. A rejection is just more space for growth. And a lot of times, if I get a rejection, I try to reach out and ask, like, can you give me any advice? Like, how can I make my portfolio or my resume better? How can I stand out more to employers? So I would take it as a learning experience and just try again next time, you know?
I want to echo that. I feel like I look at rejection as what's meant for you is always going to come. What's meant for you is not going to miss you. So prior to getting my Apple opportunity, I had applied to probably like 15 or 20 other internships, just, sending in my resume, applying random stuff. And Apple was one of those random ones that I just applied to. I got rejected from like 10 of them. I got acceptances from a consulting company that I didn't even want. So it was bizarre the way that things were working out. But that's when I realized that what's for you is always going to come, especially if you put in the work meant to. So when it came to the Apple opportunity, I had, retailored my resume after each rejection. I used it to each rejection to learn, okay, what can I do different this time? Maybe I put a cover letter here. Maybe I switch up my fonts. Maybe I switch up the colors. Just doing something new each time to stand out. And then when it came to the second opportunity, I wanted to, before I picked the growth marketing team to go to, there were other marketing teams that I looked at as well. But I was already in the Apple like infrastructure, so the rejections didn't feel as harsh. It just felt like, okay, people want me to develop. They want to say, okay, even though maybe you want to be in a brand strategist role eventually, that might not be the best space for you right now. So looking at things in a perspective of development versus rejection, it helps a lot with the blowback.
I totally agree. And I do think this question is so hard because I do want to say, like, move on, it'll be okay. But I've been there. Like, I've been in those moments where I've been rejected from something that I really wanted. And it's just so crushing in some moments, especially if you put a lot of effort in the application or in the interview process. So I think first things first, like, let yourself feel those things because that's awesome. Like, you really wanted the job, you really put in the effort. It's not the ideal situation, and so practice some self-compassion of some sort, and understand that it's a difficult situation to be in and you're not alone, but it still feels bad. And then after you can work through those feelings for a day or maybe two, that's when it really is so important, as everyone has mentioned, to repurpose that energy, do more of that development focus, and have the perspective that you really want to be somewhere where the team really wants you to. So instead of convincing someone of why you should be there, also know that you can interview the employer. You can ask them questions and know if it's the right environment for you. So it's not just like a one-sided kind of interview. You're also trying to see if you would be a good fit with them. And if eventually it doesn't work, it just means they were looking for something different. Doesn't mean that what you offer is not great and you're not bringing amazing things to the table. It just means that another team will really need that and is looking for something like that. So keep your head up, feel what you have to feel, but just keep moving forward and you'll find the right team for you.
Yeah, sort of on that note, I think one thing I try to remember when getting a rejection, or I think even worse sometimes just not getting any response at all, like when applying, Like I would rather hear a no than just be wondering and have no idea. But one thing I try to remember is that like I am not my work. So like trying to separate yourself from your work. And in that way, it kind of feels less of a personal rejection. And maybe you just weren't the right fit for the role, or the experience isn't like perfectly aligned, something like that.
That is so true. Just trying to separate your own identity from your work and realizing that at the end of the day, like it's not the end of the world, that you got a rejection. It happens to everyone. Just take your time to like recover from it, feel what you need to feel, and then once you're ready, get back on your feet and try again. Okay, we got a really good question from Milan. They asked, any tips on creating your own projects and case studies to help form your portfolio? And then what skills should I focus on improving, gaining? So maybe Charlotte, if you want to speak on that.
So it was about skills to create your portfolio. Yeah, I think the main thing is, yeah, so here's my portfolio. The main tools that I typically use are a mix of Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. So Photoshop is primarily good for editing photographs and sort of doing collages. And if you click into that Adidas project, so before Nike, I interned for 6 months at Adidas, also doing footwear design for them. And so, for instance, like this mock-up here, that was all created in Photoshop. Um, you can find a lot of resources online, like an image of a billboard, and then you can input your graphic onto it. And so this mock-up as well was made in Photoshop with a combination of photos I took with my smartphone and then images I found online as well. And then Illustrator is much better for logo design and that kind of thing, creating like vector-based line art. And InDesign is really great for laying out a page. So if you want to lay out like a resume, anything that has more text is best in InDesign. So if you wanted to lay out a book or something like that, InDesign would be the tool to use.
Can I ask how you made this website? Because the portfolio is really cool.
Yeah, so I use Squarespace for this, but basically, like all of the assets that are on the website were created with Adobe Creative Cloud. So like the photos edited in Photoshop, like cropped, colored, all that kind of thing. And yeah, so the website looks as good as it does because the assets were like improved upon in Creative Cloud products.
That's really cool. It's a really nice website. Your work is amazing.
Thanks.
All right. Okay. So another question that we have. Let's see. There's a lot of good questions. Okay. I believe you guys had mentioned that were everyone's internships remote, or did anyone have to relocate or go in person? So everyone had remote internships.
I had remote internships. I've had internships in the past where I've had to relocate as well.
How was that? How was that experience?
Yeah, that experience was really hectic, but it was really fun. So I was working at a company called Wunderkind, and they are located in New York City, and I go to school in Boston. So it wasn't that far of a drive or going on train, but at the same time, it's kind of packing all your bags and moving. The company was really helpful in terms of connecting me with other people that were going through the same process in order to find roommates, to find new housing. It was a fast turnaround because I made my decision and I signed the contract in November and I had to move it by January. So I only had a month and a half really to figure everything out. So it was a lot, but honestly, the companies are really helpful when it comes to helping you find like the right opportunity. And most of the time, the recruiter will be really responsive. If you have any hesitations or struggles when it comes to, for example, finding housing, they'll recommend certain locations or people that they know. But a lot of the times, even if it's not possible, I think in a remote world, you can also probably talk about the possibility of you working remotely for that company, maybe, or if they have a different base that is near you. But honestly, I really loved working in New York City. And I do think that if you have the opportunity, the resources, and accessibility to get there, it is a great experience to actually see your coworkers in person and see them every day, because work gets done differently in person.
Yeah, I can say one piece. In my internships with Adidas and Nike, in addition to like an hourly salary that we were paid, they also provided a stipend at the beginning to help cover rent or help cover like relocation and that kind of thing. So they really try to make it as easy and as smooth of a transition as possible. Yeah.
I can speak to Apple's relocation commitment. Even though both of my internships were remote, they tried to get us out there. It was just based on COVID. We had to, play it by ear. But Apple does also provide a stipend for you, and Apple also has a campus. First summer, I would have been in Cupertino, and I would have been at the Apple Park. I would have been put with a roommate, but I also could have chosen to just take the stipend and house myself. Just was up to me, but I would have chosen to do the campus experience just to be with all the other interns and get that full intern experience. And then the second summer, I would have been in Culver City, around the LA area. And similar situation, they would have housed us in the Apple campus, and transportation would have been provided as well as a stipend. The other thing that they also did was, because we were remote, I still received the stipend, which was pretty nice. So it just came in addition to like the hourly paycheck that we got. So if anybody does have the opportunity to relocate, it's an amazing opportunity. You should definitely take it, because one thing that I wish I did get to experience was the environment, because as I'm deciding where I want to go full time post grad, location does play a big part, because even though both internships were in California, Southern California is very different from the Bay Area as well. So just keeping that in mind, because these relocation opportunities are great ways to figure out what you want to do post grad.
Yeah, and as a note also for Tesla, they do ask a lot of the time most interns to be in person, and they also offer a stipend. There are a lot of Facebook groups and different community groups to meet other interns and like house with them potentially, so that possibility is there. And their factory is located in Fremont, but they do have headquarters in Palo Alto.
For NASA, they have different like centers across the US. So the one that I worked at, I was in person for one summer before everything went remote. And that one happened to be right near my house, so I just commuted from home. But I know there are opportunities in California, in the Kennedy Space Center, in Florida, in Houston. And I believe for those opportunities, they do help with housing. I'm not 100% sure though, but I'm sure the information's on their website if anyone is interested. But yes, I think just the idea of relocating, while it could be a little nervous or nerve-wracking, it's very exciting. And I think if you have the opportunity, go for it, because you never know. You might love the city, and if you don't, then at least you learned. Like that's also an experience. So I see a lot of questions, people asking what they can do to get noticed by different companies. So if anyone wants to speak on that.
I can jump in on that one. I think one of the things that helped me get the opportunity with Apple was my on-campus involvement. For a lot of the organizations that I'm a part of, I sit on the executive boards where I run some of the social media pages. And because a couple of the roles I was applying for were more so creative, it helped me to be able to show some of the content that I've created using Adobe Spark Post, and kind of use the social media accounts that I run as somewhat of a portfolio. And I think that we have a video to show examples of how you can use Spark Post as well to present your work digitally. Hey everyone, my name is Mykal-Michele Longino. I'm a senior English major at Spelman College. I'm from Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and I'm so excited to talk with you today about one of my favorite Adobe platforms, Spark Post. Now, I love Adobe Spark Post because I'm able to utilize the platform in a multitude of ways. From professional to academic to extracurricular engagements, Adobe Spark Post is perfect for each and every role. From an academic standpoint, I sit on a lot of organizations that require me to utilize our social media space to get the word out about events that I'm helping to host. If we don't have creative and engaging content, then there's no interaction with our followers. Adobe Spark Post makes it so easy to engage with our followers in ways that feel super organic. In fact, because of the user-friendly templates and seamless interface, companies such as Too Faced Cosmetics, Nike, Bed Bath & Beyond, and Juicy Couture have reached out to me to create content for their social media spaces. This is all just examples of how Adobe Spark Post has helped me in both an academic and professional settings. So here's an example of how I remix Adobe Spark Post templates to present on my campus social media pages, but also use to present in professional portfolios. So every week, it's my job to post during our weekly hashtags, and on Monday, that hashtag is Motivational Monday. As you can see here, I've chosen one of my favorite Spark Post templates, and it's super easy for me to just drag in my organization's icon. I can click the color wheel, I can remix the colors to match our icon, and also keep the backsplash of the Spark Post template that I love. So I love the animation of this template. I love how easy it is to move things around, but also a lot of white space. It'll match my organization's Instagram theme, but I can also keep this template to remix it each time I have a different quote I want to add, or maybe use it for another hashtag day. Hopefully this video can give you a sense of all that you can do with Spark Post. Even though I made that template in a short amount of time, it's just an example of how easy the templates are to remix. I hope that you go through them. I hope that you find ways to utilize the templates for your professional, personal, and academic needs. If you have any questions, please let us know, and I look forward to seeing your content from Spark Post.
That was awesome.
So
Such a fun video. Yeah.
That was so good.
Thank you. Spark Post is really fun.
Awesome. So, okay, let's see what other questions people have. I guess we already talked about our different company cultures, because I guess every company is different and every company has a different brand that they want to put out. So I guess maybe how important do you guys think your personal branding was, or how you like showcased yourself to the company?
I'd say as a designer, it's super important. I think like a resume could just be like Times New Roman, black, 12-point font on a white piece of paper, but you also can make it so much more interesting than that, and you can make it pop, sort of how Fernanda shared her story. You can make it stand out basically from like the stack of resumes that recruiters encounter every single day. And for me, like creating like almost a personal logo that is consistent across my resume, website, cover letter, and then even like creating the same username across like Instagram, email, again, website URL, all that kind of thing really helps people find you when they're like trying to search you up on Google.
I think something else that helps your personal brand is being very strategic about the things that you involve yourself in. For example, because I want to be in a marketing space, but Spelman College doesn't have a marketing major, I make sure to put myself in positions that match my career goals. Now, I didn't go into college knowing exactly what I wanted to do, but by freshman year, I knew, okay, I want to be in a space where I can still use my writing concentration and my love for communication, and figure out ways to mold that into maybe more of a creative space. So like I just talked about in the Spark Post video, sitting on organizations that allow me to work with social media, doing different certification programs that let me learn more about the digital marketing space, and just doing things strategically to show companies that you're focused on your personal development.
Yes, to everything said before. And I think one thing that I was thinking about too is that your personal brand can also expand beyond your work. And so a lot of the time, obviously, you want to showcase how you are in a professional field and obviously keep some personal life separate. But a lot of the times, it is your interests that will make you stand out. And so I remember in my own struggle to find my own personal brand, I was looking at different influencers on LinkedIn that I wanted to follow and how they structure content. But in reality, I was just kind of copying what they were doing, what was working for them, even if it wasn't authentic to myself. And so I really suggest also to take some time into thinking what makes you you at the end of the day. What are your biggest passions? What are your values in the workplace? I know, for example, I want to emphasize across my platforms that I'm a great team player, that I use empathy whenever I'm developing user journeys or conducting customer interviews, or that whenever a project is being handled, I have professionalism. And so I'd suggest you looking at the things that make you special and that make you unique, and bring those into your interviews, into your socials, into different visuals that you can create. Because at the end of the day, those are the things that people will also remember you by. It is important to think that at the end of the day, also, there's a person that is behind the application that you're submitting. It's not just a machine, but there's someone looking for someone that can get them excited about the job and that shows how happy they are to be there. So put in the time also to figure out the things that make you special and stand that out.
Yeah, I can definitely echo on a lot of those points. I think for me, a lot of the different internships I was applying for, they were different in terms of how creative and how design heavy they were. So, for example, for like the NASA internship, my resume wasn't as creative as I would have liked it because I didn't know if a government agency would prefer that or prefer something a little more like professional. But then for something that's for like a design firm or something, I definitely put a little more effort and like showed some more of my own personal style. So I think it also depends on where you're applying and what the position is. And again, Mykal, you said like how you wanted to find opportunities that like helped you better your design and stuff around school, even if that wasn't your major. And for me, that is exactly the case because I'm a computer science major. So I have to look for like design and art opportunities that are in different clubs. So for example, I'm a design director for like a on-campus hackathon, or I'm part of a design honors program. So things like that also can all definitely improve your resume and give you more chances and show, like even though I'm a STEM girl, like I still have all these creative interests and passions. So I think just, knowing that it doesn't necessarily have to be your like education and your coursework is like what's going to get you through this. It's everything. Yeah, so let's see. Does anyone else have anything to speak to that?
Oh, I just wanted to also mention, your brand also carries over once you get the internship as well. So making sure that you're known as the intern who is always willing to help, no project is too small or too big, going in with a mindset that you really just want to develop and learn as much as you can, that really will take you a long way, because even though you're an intern and it technically is their job to help you, develop, you want to make sure that they know that you want to be there and that you want to learn. And even if you don't know if you want to be at the company long term, these are just opportunities to keep learning and to keep growing. So being known as the intern who speaks up in the intern meetings or just always ask questions. I know someone mentioned never show up to a one-on-one without a list of questions to ask. And especially at Apple, and I'm sure at everyone else's companies, being quote unquote likable or easy to work with, easy to collaborate with is a very big part of moving gracefully throughout the internship and throughout the company.
Was everyone's internships during the summer, or did anyone hold any internships during the school semesters?
I did both. So at Nike, it was 3 months this summer. And then when I interned at Adidas for 6 months, it carried over into fall semester.
Okay, how was that balance like?
A lot of work. I had like a full course load at Pratt, and then also was working like 25 hours a week. So it was a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I first started the internship while taking classes and then did summer internship alone, just some summer classes. And now in the fall, it is a lot, but at the end of the day, time management will save you. I really rely on my calendar a lot for time blocking, making sure that I'm putting the right time for assignments for school versus work. But I do think that shifting in mindset was the most challenging part of like I'm in school and I'm mostly learning and listening, and then going into the mindset of like I'm at work. I have to make sure that I'm very proactive in everything that I do and that I voice an opinion. So I think that was the most challenging part, but you get through it, and yeah, it's worth it at the end.
Both of my internships were in the summer, but I did do a couple of different programs during the school year, junior year and sophomore year, both that were focused on growth marketing, digital marketing development. And I think similarly, it was difficult to balance, but at the same time, it was amidst COVID and being at home. So it was a nice way to kind of focus in on work during that time. But I definitely just echo what everyone else said. Time management is definitely the key, and using these as experiences to hone those skills, because eventually we won't have internships and there'll be real jobs. So it'll be good to get those skills down now.
For sure. Awesome. So we have hit 9 o'clock. Thank you guys so much for coming. And thank you for everyone in the audience. We loved your questions, and I hope that this panel has been informative and helpful. And I hope you guys all the best in your applications, internship hunts, job hunts, everything. So remember, we still have a live chat in the Discord. I believe the link has been dropped in the chat. So please feel free to drop in and be able to talk to us, and we hope to see you there. And yeah, and if you answer this brief survey, you have a chance to be selected for 1 year of free Creative Cloud. So awesome. Well, it was great talking with you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you all.
Bye, guys. Bye.